And we're ready.
All right,
And
well,
here's
thanks.
Mr. Crab for you.
Well, thanks everyone for joining. We've got an interesting set of pictures to go through today that at least represent what it was kind of like uh, to grow up around here. Franklin was, yeah, you can turn the lights off. Thanks. You know, Franklin was a unique place to grow up in. I mean, you've heard me say it before that uh, even though I was born 2 years after the Zinc Company closed, I know I look much younger than that, but we all grew up learning how to say greetings and curse in 5 different languages because of the big melting pot that we had here for the Zinc Company for all the different miners. But yet no one was considered a minority. What was more important as kids back then was which neighborhood that you came from. Like, for instance, you'd had Green Street. They called it a gang, but it wasn't gang at all. They're just kids that got together. Green Street gang, Sterling Street gang, Little Hungry, Siberia, South Street, Butler Street. But it's not like you couldn't go there. It's just what the associations were. And everybody at school knew who was from the Green Street gang or everything like this, such as the case here. I don't know if you recognize where we are, but there's a couple hints. Behind these kids that you see here is Route 23. All right. This was in 1937. The building in the back then was Moxie's Tavern. Some of you may remember Moxie from Moxie's Hairdresser. Moxie and Sophie, right, Eddie? Thank God you're here. Sophie's. That's where I got my first haircut. But you notice that it's now a travel agency, but the hairdressing place isn't there, nor is to their left Al Kovach's garage, which became Sussex Bank. Sussex Bank would be right to the left of them now. So who are these kids? Those who are from Franklin, sorry, but you know what? I'm hoping that the people online can see my cursor move. The kid in the back there, the kid smiling on his knees in the back, that's Jay Bird, who used to be a gym teacher and then eventually became the Franklin Elementary School principal. I don't know them all, but this guy right here, you can tell by his shoulders going over, that's Mo Copens. Mo Copens. You remember that for those of us that remember Mo growing up, nice guy, a very jolly guy, a good businessman, but he had a birth defect that made his shoulders drop like that. But you can see that these are kids that grew up near each other. Jay Bird, the one that's in the back, eventually settled in for the rest of his life just up the road to the right, just out of the frame there, across from the firehouse. The building in the back, some of you may remember as the Village Inn. Then it became, what's the Irish place?
Was it the Gaslight?
No, Gaslight was up on the other right. Sullivan's. That used to be Sullivan's, and now it's TD Bank. Yep, right there on the corner. To the right of that building is where the road goes back to the Legion now, right? But there's no Legion there yet. All right, and that little house to the left, that's still there. There's a couple other buildings there now, but that house is still there. To the left, just out of the frame of that picture, is where, well, Eddie would remember as the new bakery, but there was a bakery there when we were a kid. And now there's a little strip mall in there. That used to be the auto parts place, and now it's a strip mall.
So the bakery used to be on
Nestor Street, right?
Rosen's,
right? And so just to get your bearings, the firehouse would be behind you to the right.
Tag.
Oh, could you mute your microphone, please, out there in Zoom land? So that's the start, but I just want to show you that this whole conversation about how kids got together
Isn't it?
and were associated by their neighborhood, not by their nationality, not by their culture. All right. And here, one of the biggest things, if you were a kid here, was canteen. They held canteen at the neighborhood house 3 days a week, Wednesdays, Fridays.
What you do with it?
And this is canteen probably back in, oh, the late 40s, the earliest like 50s. And remember that guy that I told you that had like the crooked shoulders, all right? That's this guy right here, Mo Copens. Right in the same, right in the same picture there. But canteen, it would cost you 10 cents to go as long as you were from Franklin. If you weren't from Franklin, it would cost you 15 cents. You could buy yearly memberships for $1 as long as you were a junior or a senior in high school. And what happens is that they would collect that money, and once all this, they had 2 soda machines in there, right? 2 Coke machines. And once that was all paid off, then they kept saving the little dues for their special events, which were held at Christmas, New Year's, and Easter. And what happens is that they would be free for those who bought memberships, right? It would be free, the soda and everything like that. And that's what you see at the bottom one. That was a special occasion. That is Alice Hovenkamp, all right, who became Alice Shoemaker, right? I think, Eddie?
Yes.
You would know because you danced with her once. I know you, all right? And the guy dancing with her is Matty DeMario from just down the road here. DeMario's was a famous market around here when we were kids growing up. And these are types of, and that's one of the special occasions that looks like that. It might be Christmas. Both of them look like that. It might be Christmas. But look at the attendance. The neighborhood house was a center for the town's youth. The Zinc Company always provided for their families. And here's another one a little bit later. Now this, I believe, and I don't know whether or not Suzanne Banky might be on here with us, but this was a class night for Franklin High School. And you see how they're all dressed up. All the girls are in white, boys. There's some familiar faces here. That's Suzanne Banky right there. All right. And the guy playing guitar over here is none other but Jeff Davidowski. All right. And the guy on accordion, of course, this is where bands still had accordions, is Al Grazovich. Now I forgot who the other guys were, but look, you've got all these girls dancing and one guy. See all the guys, wallflowers here, right? You know, sitting like that.
Looks like Barbara Ross. Wonder if it was.
Oh, could be
Glasses.
Barbara Ross or Suzanne Banky.
Or no, one in the front.
Kinda.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Or is that, who was the family that was on Fowler Street, like in the double house, went to the Presbyterian church? I remember it later. Their father worked for Littell's delivering gas.
Neiman.
Kelly.
Oh.
Kelly. Maybe, I don't know. But it's got a theme. It's got a little luau theme here, it looks like. But look at the guys. They don't want to get up to dance. Good Lordy, low. And this was earlier. This was probably 1946 or 1947. This is a ticket to a big day. It looks like the end of the year celebration for the canteen. The first part of which was during the day at Kovach's Grove, where there was a separate admission. They had ice cream and they had hamburgers, hot dogs, and stuff like this. But at night was the dance. I noticed how late that the dance started there, all right? 25 cents, which was a lot of money back in those days. The significance about this ticket is it belonged to Mickey McChesney. And it was the night that he first took out Cecilia, who became his wife. Right, Cecilia Weeks. She was a year or two younger. So this was either 47 or 48.
Wow.
Cecilia McChesney's parents. And it's amazing something like that. Now, this is interesting. This is at a canteen, and mind you, that all kids, it wasn't just juniors or seniors. This is little Bobby Duck from Ducky's garage, dancing with Dr. Daly's daughter. And legend is he built up the courage all night to ask her to dance like that. But obviously, it's a junior high centric canteen. I don't know whether she was one of the like chaperones or they're what there, but that was cute. And look at the disco ball back when there wasn't disco up in the upper, and everything's decorated. So the neighborhood house really played a central part, and that's the neighborhood house on the left, which I think most of us recognize. This is back during the time period. You guys that know cars could probably date it well for me. All right, but that's the neighborhood house that's on the left. It's no longer there. I won't get into too much detail on it. It's just a missed opportunity that it's not there still. And you see on the right, which was the company store that became Herzenberg's, that we know it as the corner deli. That's on the left down there. But everything that you see in this picture, with the exception of the neighborhood house, is still there. All right, you see B.D. Simmons up at the top of the hill where the coal chutes were. And see right here, that Breyer's ice cream sign on the side, that's Herzenberg's first store, right, Eddie?
Right.
That's Herzenberg's first store before Herzenberg's bought the company store on the right when the Zinc Company sold it. That Breyer's ice cream sign was still there when I was a little kid. I don't know, Gene, whether or not you remember that there or there, but look how vibrant that Main Street is. All up and down, all right? And that's a good picture. Very representative. Now, Canteen also sponsored a yearly trip to Palisades Amusement Park. And these are the older members of Canteen. Because one of the big deals, even though we had the Franklin Pond, was to go swim in a real pool, which was kind of a new thing back then, and like unusual thing. But look at some of the names. This came right out of Zinc magazine, so we're benefiting from the little captions under it, right? Look at the second person from the left. That's Patty Doyle, daughter of Clarkson Doyle, sister of John Doyle, and who I knew growing up right down there. Well, not growing up, but she was. But look at the other names: Elchin, Rude, Romaine, Boyd, Maxine Midland, Eddie on the far right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that's now Maxine was your
No, Maxine was much younger.
yeah, but she was your cousin, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
her father was my cousin.
So that was a big trip to Canteen to go down to, and this was earlier. This was the younger kids that went down. They got several buses that they met at the neighborhood house, took them down for the day. And then there was roll call that was taken to make sure everybody got back on the bus down there. So it was a big deal. The big thing down there too, Eddie, was like dancing. They had a dance. You know, nowadays they would go down for roller coasters and everything like. They went down to dance. Now, in this picture, the girl in the middle is Betsy McCann. McCann, Ray McCann's daughter. Ray McCann, the king of Franklin. Ray McCann, the head of the entire Zinc Company. My guess is she had to be the most difficult girl to ask out in the whole town. All right. Betsy McCann, you see some other names. I mean, but this was an all day, a big deal. And they had all sorts of age groups that went down. Now, this is another neighborhood house event. This is the women's bowling team. Remember, in the neighborhood house downstairs on the right-hand side, they had bowling alleys. I think they had four, Eddie. They had four, I think.
Two on each side.
Yeah, two on each side. And they were actually segregated to the point that the women had two and the men played two. This is the women's league. There's a ton of different nationalities represented here, but they could all bowl. And if you notice the pins, well, let's look right in the middle. That's where you would roll the ball back. So somebody had to stand back here. They had like pin setters that would sit themselves up on top of this thing as the ball came down, and you'd step on this hook that made the points come up underneath, and you would reset the pins. And they may throw you a quarter, they may throw you a dime for the game, or or there's something like this. This is where some of the most competitive competitions were between the Zinc Company offices, Franklin and Palmerton and Gilman and New York. It was very serious stuff. All right. And this was the winning women's team. And I don't have their names, but in Zinc magazine, where this came from, there's 4 different nationalities there. So, bowling was bowling brought together the miners and the bosses, all right? The English, the Irish, and the Ukrainians, you know what I mean? It was such a melting pot on so many different levels. And that's the winning women's team that year. Now, the churches were also very active with the youth. This is the Franklin Presbyterian Church, 1968. It's the Franklin High School football team that they put a breakfast on for. It was quite the tradition. On the left, you see Mike Lotzika, Zimro Lotzika's nephew. The next guy with a tie is Randy Riggs. He was the assistant pastor of the Presbyterian Church back then, who led the charge to have a youth group. All right. In the middle is a McZuga. Maybe Karen McZuga. The guy to the right with a tie is Richard Poots. Mr. Poots from Franklin High School, who was also an assistant football coach. And the guy to the right was the Franklin High School football quarterback, John Schroeder, who I heard hated to get needles at Dr. Verme's head. And that Randy Riggs, he started a group that was called the Open Door Coffee House. The Open Door was in the basement of what we know as the professional building. Okay, that's where not Mother Teresa, that's where Sister Thomasina had her shelter stuff, and clothes and everything right down. But in the basement, it was the rage back in the late 60s to open up an open door coffee house where high school kids could get together and commune. Right? And Randy Riggs led that charge, which for the more conservative Presbyterian congregation was kind of like pushing the envelope here, because we had come from Reverend Strain, who was fire and brimstone, to Bob Jones and Randy Riggs. Hi, how are you?
Sorry it's so late.
No, it's all right. A piece of cake. I got lots of things to show you out here.
I'm sure.
But they did pretty forward-thinking things. That's the Presbyterian Church, but it's a good look at it before they put the addition on the left side. When Bob Jones came in to take over from like Reverend Stream, Bob Jones was very progressive. Reverend Stream was very 1930s, 40s, typical fire and brimstone preacher. They added all the classrooms you see now on the left side of the church, which provided like a little controversy, but it's to provide for the youth. There was a big push for the youth of the church. And Michelle, are you in this one? Maybe not.
What?
One of those things was the United Presbyterian Women also reached out to the female youth. And in this case, they had different events, but this one was a wedding
Yeah,
dress outfit. I remember this happening.
I wasn't in it. That's Joanne Guerrero.
Right. That's Joanne Guerrero.
Janice
on the
Guerrero,
right,
the
Janice
little one.
Guerrero next to her. Bob Jones's daughter, Pam.
Pammy, yeah.
That's an
Probably the other
Engler.
one.
That's an Engler.
Okay.
That's no, not to who married the Engler girl? British guy.
I don't know.
I can't remember it. Come on, you gotta be ready for this question.
Sorry. And that's Leslie. on the
Leslie
front.
Littell. I recognize her, but I don't know her name. And that's the wife of I forget. But this was on the front steps, and I remember the day that this happened, which was probably 55 years ago now. So yeah, crazy. But
I remember Joanne's outfit, but
yeah, there was a big push for youth back in the late
Mhm.
60s. Now, of course, this was the center. This was the center of it all, the
Oh.
Franklin Pond. All right. This is an earlier picture because they've got the bathhouse sitting in the middle. Remember when we were kids and we swam down there and we'd stub our toes on something concrete that was
Oh,
right
yeah.
in the beach? That's what we were stubbing our toes on, the concrete thing. You can see the line for the diving boards.
Yeah.
A lot of us in here, almost a lot of us in here learned how to swim
Oh, yeah.
here, learned how to dive. We didn't, the first time we got pushed off
yeah.
the high dive and you can see in the background, there's guys standing on the raft.
First raft.
That was first raft.
Yeah.
A rite of passage in our lifetime was dog paddling out beyond the ropes for the first time to get the first raft. I don't know if I ever got to second raft
I
because
did.
that was a long ways.
And I went off, I jumped off the high dive a bunch of times. I
Oh.
dove off it once and I never did that again.
Oh, I think I jumped off at once, held my nose and
Yeah. Hope
and
for the
just-
best.
Yeah, and just hope for the best.
That diving board, that high board, there used to be one more step up.
Right, you're gonna
Really?
see that shortly here. right?
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
We're gonna keep going here. And here
Oh.
it is. We all remember this. I'm looking at
Oh,
this
man.
and I'm getting shivers right now. This was worse than Navy SEAL training.
Yeah.
It was so cold. This is at 9 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
probably. All right. And we're all taking lessons. Look at this poor kid down in the front here. He could not be colder. Look at that. And all these kids, and this was Cora Babcock.
Okay.
And she was probably the go-to instructor.
Look at all those kids.
Yeah, look at all, I mean, and I remember there being this like many kids. And see, here's another one of those rocks and leftover stuff they'd
Yeah.
stub your foot on. But you cannot imagine how cold this is. My lips are still blue from it. But to give you an idea, look at these poor kids, how far they got their like guts taken in. You know, people will see this and call up diapers.
Yeah.
You know, that's not malnutrition. That's like 35-degree water.
Yeah.
And,
Look
and,
at the cars.
and you can tell that it's the same from way back then, because look how old these vehicles are
Yeah.
back here.
Oh.
All right, so this has to be late thirties, maybe,
Uh,
I don't know. I don't know, and see, that's when Cork Hill Road now goes up by the ambulance building, goes up past the police department. Back then, Cork Hill Road went straight by the pond
Oh,
and
did
straight
it?
out that way.
Oh, okay. That's right.
Yeah, and there wasn't anything going up over hill. There was the road going up to Maple Road, but
Does the original road actually come out kind of by the municipal salt place and gas place?
yeah, by the
Okay.
garage, pretty
Yeah,
close
yeah,
to it.
okay.
But again, I cannot overemphasize how
Cool.
cold that was. And look at how many kids have showed up still,
I
you know? And
Oh, my.
this was, now mind you that it was quite the honor. It was a bunch of notoriety to be a Franklin lifeguard. All right.
Oh, yeah.
By evidence, the second guy from the left is like Phil Bugan, who was like the football coach.
I was gonna say, he looks like a football.
Yeah, and these are all Tommy Alsop on the far left. That was the
Wow.
Presbyterian minister's son. Mary McGovern. McEntee is a name between Franklin and Ogdensburg. Cora Babcock, who was like the all-star there. Alex Lang.
Uh-huh.
And Micah, that's Eddie Gonzalez's brother on the far right.
Wow.
All right. And the old bathing at your own risk.
Yeah.
That's an understatement. All right.
I was always afraid of going over the falls.
Yeah, but you know what? The reason why you would never go over the falls is that
It's a lip.
it's a tapered dam. So at the falls, it's only about that deep. All right?
Yeah.
Now, a lot
I
of
didn't
people
know that
ask
though, so I just like
A lot
slipped
of
like a
people
mad
ask-
person.
And of course, the other big deal here was
Wow.
skating. All right. I don't know why in the last 20 years that the ice never gets thick enough to skate.
Yeah.
But there used to be an all clear flag that
Yeah.
was hung on the front of the neighborhood house that everybody called the Japanese flag because it looks like it had a rising sun on it, right? Okay. And that indicated that it was safe to skate on the pond. And you can see everybody down there. And to Eddie's point, look at the height of that high dive back here. Good Lordy Lou, that's like Olympic size, you know? And we got to show you one thing. This picture was taken in 1942 or 43.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And I want you guys to take a good look at this thing. And do you recognize this couple here?
Oh, is that your parents?
No.
That sweater I remember.
Yeah. That's this guy right here is this guy right here,
Oh.
Eddie Middle. And he's skating with she became Gary Kovach's mother. Right? Billy
Yes,
Kovach's
that-
mother.
Yeah,
Yes, but I can't remember.
he remembers the sweater though.
That's not well, and the sweater has an M on it, but there's a story. It's not M for Midland. It's M for the Franklin Miners.
It's
Eddie-
my brother Cecil's.
Eddie's brother Cecil was the ball boy, was the trainer for the Franklin Miners. All right. And they gave him and the other one,
Kaji Lapatka.
right, Kaji. Yeah. Kaji Lapadka.
The only two sweaters.
The only
with
two
him
sweaters.
on it.
Boy, if we could find that
Wow.
sweater right now, wouldn't that be something?
Mm.
But that person in this historical photo is sitting with us right
That's
here,
pretty cool.
right here. Thank God you're here, Eddie.
Oh, yeah.
Whoop, sorry about that. You're back.
That's pretty cool.
So and of course, the pond also served as an entertainment center. That's for some of you. That's Vic Damone
Oh, my.
and
Wow.
Buddy Hackett.
Oh, my.
Celebrities came up.
And Franklin got a lot of celebrities. Babe Ruth.
Yeah,
We had Don Drysdale, we had guys like, and Vic Damone and Buddy Hackett were good friends with Father Steve
yeah,
from the
yeah.
Catholic Church. And they came up and they brought his whole orchestra with them, and this is down by the pond where the Catholic Church used to have its
Pavilion.
festival, I don't, John Sowden, what was it
It
called?
was
Festival?
Fiesta. You're right.
Oh, right.
My mother
Right,
was a
Fiesta, yeah,
Fiesta
yeah,
queen.
yeah, that's it. So, look at that,
Right.
and Buddy Hackett, and the story goes that they had food booths up and around, and Buddy Hackett fell in love with the sausages that we made here locally, you know, and he couldn't get enough of them.
Looks like a child in this picture.
Yeah. Now, here's Father Steve himself,
Mhm.
and he had movie star looks. Look at that. I never
yeah.
knew him except as an older.
He was a
white
charmer.
man, right? And that's with Vic Damone here. I think that's Vic Damone's agent. And
Yeah, it is.
that's Joe Voza on the left, and it's Ben Mealy on the right.
Wow,
Isn't that something?
funny story.
Yeah, and I'm sure this was an honor guard that they got for, Joe
Yeah,
lives here
yeah.
locally, it's just up the road, and Ben lived here too. Ben lived over by the school there. I don't know where at this time though, but and look at Father Steve. If I
Yeah.
had his looks, I'd never become a priest, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Lordy Lou. Now, at the pond, July 4th was a big deal around. It was a really big deal. You'd have to get to the pond early, 9 o'clock in the morning, so you freeze.
Yeah.
Right? But they had things like the peanut races that us
Okay.
little kids, we'd borrow our sister's bathing cap and go collect peanuts and put them in peanuts, throw it around. That was all within the ropes, all right? But
Oh, that's funny.
this was the greased watermelon. And this
Oh my
was
gosh.
the team that captured the watermelon. You can't imagine the bedlam out in the water with all different kids from different teams trying to get this thing. Now holding it is Scrappy Natolsky right
Wow.
there in the front. Now look to the lower row far left. What does that look like? It's Billy Romaine. Yeah,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Billy Romaine. So
Does anybody recognize any of the others?
it's
hard.
Eddie, do you recognize anybody there? That's
They
a hard
got
one.
faces, but I can't put
They got,
names to them.
yeah, I know. But Scrappy, that looks exactly like Scrappy Natolsky. That looks exactly like Romaine.
Yeah, it does, now that you
Yeah.
say it.
Now, they also,
Had liquor store or would it be?
yes,
Father?
yeah, no, liquor store down by Post Ashes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and
Jacobson's.
Then,
Yeah.
then Romaine bought it.
Right. This was the pie eating contest. This is many years earlier. All right. But you can't imagine the faces on it, the purple faces that were on these kids afterwards. And look, there's all the Zinc Company bigwigs getting a big kick out of it.
Yeah.
Firemen. I wonder who that is, Eddie. I don't know. No jacket on, but. And here
Oh,
back
my.
down at the pond, this is, I mean, they had days like this where they had diving teams
Uh-huh.
and the actual caption on this in Zinc magazine is Franklin's Bathing Beauties. And I'm dying to try to find out who the little girl is down
Yeah,
there because she may be around still.
yeah, you'd think.
I don't know, but
You
this is
know
where
what year
it'd be valuable to have names on the back of these pictures.
it is?
And of course, the greased pig.
Oh my,
That's Cubby Kowalski.
holding it?
He had stories. So.
Yeah.
And I think
Silly
the
thing.
person behind his right elbow on the left-hand side is like Billy Romaine again there.
Uh-huh.
But guess what the prize was for the grease pig?
The pig?
The pig.
I just guessed.
The pig. This was actually held down at the armory, down behind Brick and Brew there.
Oh, yeah.
All right, it had just been built. All right, so you're looking across at where the Harrison School would end up being. I don't think it was there at this point. All right, but that's where the new armory is. The old armory was if you came out of the Franklin School and just kept walking straight out the front door and past the teacher's parking lot and past that first field. The old armory was at the end of
Really?
that field there. Yeah, remember the old garages that were back there?
Yeah. That was the armory?
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Cubby Kowalski. And of course, the other big thing around here was Halloween. And I grew up on North Church Road. Until I went to kindergarten, I thought I lived in Franklin. All right. But I went to the Hardiston school. So I never heard about things like Halloween parades or canteens or any of these things or neighborhoods. We had no neighborhood out there. Everything was
Yeah.
us. But Halloween parade, a lot of kids gave up going door to door.
Electric irons.
Well, to participate in the Halloween parade that started down by Kickers, down
think
by
you're right.
Body and Bear, down by the garage at the end. Thing there. Came all the way up Main Street, right past here, and ended at the
the
Franklin Theater, where every kid got to walk across the stage, get a little treat, and
It's a contest.
and be judged.
Yeah.
This was the biggest holiday of the year for Chief Irons.
Yeah.
Chief Irons is right here. Chief Irons was a one-man police force,
Oh.
essentially. He had served in the military
Yeah.
down in Panama. They found out about him. They brought him up here in 1915, and he served until his retirement in 1957. He only survived a couple months after his retirement, died of a heart attack,
That's too bad.
ironically, on Halloween.
Ah,
Now, driving the horse and wagon there, none other but Joe Colsar, old Joe Colsar.
oh,
That
my.
used to own Colsar's garage out on the highway, which is where one of the two auto parts stores is now. You got the tire store and you got the auto parts store. And you know that it's Joe, not only because of the horse, but because of his trademark cowboy hat.
Oh, that's funny.
But they say Chief Irons loved kids. All right.
And he was a scary man. I don't,
You
my
wouldn't.
dad used to have such stories about him.
Right, you wouldn't want to get caught
No.
doing anything, because he wouldn't put you in jail. He threatened to tell your father.
Yeah.
And and boy, kids would do anything to get out
Shaking in their
of
boots.
Chief Irons, and they said that he loved kids, and I've heard there. But by the way, Chief Irons's great granddaughter lives next door to me in your old house.
Oh, really? Is that who bought it?
Yeah, yeah.
That's funny.
She's his great granddaughter. Yeah. Nice gal. And of course, they went to the Franklin Theater. This is actually Christmas,
Yeah.
but same type of thing where all the kids would go into the Franklin Theater,
And
line
get a
up. In
present.
this case, they're getting a treat from Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Halloween, they would come across and get a treat for Halloween.
Yeah.
Recreation did this, drove this,
Okay.
clearly with the support of the Zinc Company and everything like that.
Oh, yeah.
And what he's handing out there, these little boxes he's handing out, we've
Like
saved
animal
one.
crackers.
This
Oh.
is exactly what they were, this belongs to our mayor, John Sowden, who's on the call with us. And he had the foresight to preserve.
Great.
So we're actually looking back in time
Oh.
with this thing, and that's what they handed out.
Did he get it on the parade or is that
No,
John?
I don't know. John, was this an artifact that you got, or was this handed to you?
It was an artifact I got from Lou Cherapy.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's authentic.
says made of, is it USA up there, made in the USA?
Yeah,
Probably.
could be. Could be. But thank goodness that now, of course, the theater was also the place to take the commemorative annual pictures, especially for Little League. And just a couple notables on here. I don't remember them all, but that's Ray Hyde,
Of
who
course.
just passed away at 108 years old.
Holy mackerel.
Just passed away. Gene, is that your father over here?
No,
No, it looks like a little bit like him though.
I don't know who it is, but it's not my father.
Yeah, that's my brother Nelson right there.
Wow.
So what year is this?
Oh, it has to be 1950, maybe. And all these numbers have names to them, so
Oh,
I'm gonna
okay.
make this deck available to anybody that's interested in it. So when that comes out, we'll be able to look at the names. But this is how vibrant, Little League was. Recreation made sure all the kids stayed.
That movie that was on the bill was 1952.
I was gonna
Is
say,
that
you
what
can
it is?
tell by the movie, yeah.
Let's go back to that. Hold on. What a great idea to look that up. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
My son, John? Island of Desire.
It looks like it's way before 50.
Island of Desire was the Tuesday, Wednesday movie, not the Friday, Saturday. Right.
That's
Interesting.
funny.
Michelle's dad used to
Yeah.
own the Franklin Theater.
He revived it in
Yeah.
the 70s.
Yeah. Huh?
And my mother ran it, and my brother and his friend were the ushers. My aunts sold the popcorn, and my grandpa was the projectionist.
Hold the thought about the popcorn. The interesting thing about this, the projectionist, when you're looking at the building, the projectionist window was way up at the top for projection room. The guy who was the projectionist had a little pet dog. And whenever the dog had to go pee, well, he couldn't leave the projector. He put on a rope and lower it down the front.
Get outta
of the
here.
Theater to where the camera,
Oh, that's
that is
funny.
God's honest truth.
Holy mackerel.
And of course, before we went to the Saturday matinee, we'd all stop at Webb's
Yeah.
to get the cheap popcorn, because back then, they didn't mind you bringing in food with you,
Mhm.
oddly enough. We'd spend 19 cents and get this big tall bag of like popcorn.
Mhm, mhm.
And you get candy bars, a nickel Three Musketeer bar and
Yeah,
everything like this.
everything.
And of course, it's right next to the theater, which is right
there.
out there. Webb's newsstand. Of course, this,
Is
I
that
don't,
Inside Webby?
yeah, that is Mrs. Webb. I have never seen a young Mrs. Webb.
Wow.
And that, when I first saw this, I thought that this was a great acquisition. I do remember that cabinet full of candies
Oh, yeah.
and like cigarette lighters and
Fake cigarettes.
look at the signs up on the wall. Every one of them would be worth a mint right
Yeah.
now. That's Mrs. Webb when she was young. This is a very rare
All the newspapers.
picture. Yeah, and I'm looking at this and I can smell it. I can smell
Yeah.
that store, This is how I remember
Yes.
Mrs. Webb.
Yeah.
Look at the headline down at the bottom, Beatles.
Wow.
That's how I remember
Yeah.
Mrs. Hill Webb. And look at the piles of my newspapers.
Neat.
Bravest thing I ever did was Robbie Paddock, myself, and Tom Batra each chipped in a quarter and gave it to Tom, who was the only one that had the guts to go into Webb's and buy a 75-cent Playboy.
Playboy.
calendar. And he said that he was buying it for his dad. He took it out. And we were, and I've never seen anything like that in my life.
It's a memory you'll never
Well,
forget.
And
That's
and
funny.
I just wonder where 75 cents.
Too bad you didn't still have that
No,
calendar.
for crying out loud. No, that's right. I never got that far, I don't think.
They did.
Another great meeting place. This is the entire summer Little League team. All right. I'm gonna get, I think this is from 1950s or something like this. We're gonna go over a lot of the recognizable people here, but they're on the bleachers. The
Yeah.
bleachers were a real center point for a lot of our activity. Okay, like down front, you see Pete Shelton, Claude Paddock. No, Claude Paddock's here. Mike Coppola, Billy Romaine again, Joe Kissel, right there, and stuff like that. And that's his brother, that was, mayor, and Tugger. See, everybody had a nickname here.
Oh, yeah.
walk around here without having- Tugger Helmsy, I think that's what it is. Now, this is a rare shot. This is when they were
Building 'em.
building
Mm,
the bleachers. And look at the steel work. Those are Zinc Company millwrights that were pulled off of their normal
mhm.
jobs to come work and put this up. They had a month to do it, and they had like so many. And look at that welding tank down
Yeah.
there. For crying out loud. But you can see how sturdy that
Yeah.
those bleachers were built, and the cooperation between the Zinc Company and the school. All right, I'm not sure you get that same cooperation that way.
It's another thing I wish they never tore down.
Yeah, your dad mentioned that too. Your dad wrote a letter to the editor. I remember saying there was no reason to tear that down. And of course, the bleachers was where everyone went to go see the Franklin Miners.
Oh, yeah.
Franklin Miners were a semi-professional team that played Sundays, and they could get 1,000 people every Sunday. This was before Super
huge.
Bowl. This was before any of those things. And Saul Rosen led the charge in some of the last years. He wanted Franklin to potentially be like another Green Bay. Green Bay was just a little town that brought a
Mhm.
professional football team. And the Miners were remarkably good,
They were famous,
semi-professionally, from
actually,
the
yeah.
30s through the early, 50s.
I think actually through the 60s.
Yeah, and
Be-
when, and well, I know that Joe Guerrero brought him back.
Yeah.
Your dad played then too. And
Yeah, he played before Joe. And then I would go to
Right.
all those games after those. I would go to the games when Joe was coaching. And we'd go to the halfway house after that, all the
halfway
miners and
high,
their
I know,
wives.
yeah.
And I thought that was the coolest thing on earth.
That's Nick Zipko right here,
Okay.
like in the front left. That's Musty Postash
Oh, my.
right there. That's Charlie Roberts
Wow.
right there. And this sure looks like a Weeks, but I couldn't tell you who it was. But it's like something that you can pick these guys out. That's got to be a Milok. Has to be a Milok.
Sure looks like it.
Yeah.
Now, were they fans? Were they?
Yeah, fans.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the Franklin School. Franklin School was another very centric place for kids, okay? And especially when, the summer took over, you had the pond, but the whole rest of the year, this was it. You notice that the oak tree is still in the front down
Yeah.
there. We've got pictures of before this school was built, and that oak tree is about that big. So I'm thinking that the seed that germinated for the oak tree had to have been around the Revolution. Really great.
Wow.
Mind you, that it was very difficult to find 100-year-old tree in Frank anywhere near, because they used them all for zinc.
Yeah.
For timbers.
That's why when you look at pictures of the old town and there's no trees. It's all
Yeah.
barren.
And you can see the bus lane coming down here, and you can see the old grandstand. And the reason why this isn't there is because they put an addition on that they had to move the whole baseball field back, and that's what got rid of
Huh.
of the grandstand. But the football field is there still. And it must be football season still because you got it worn out there.
And that part behind the smokestack,
Mm-hmm.
was the first edition. I
Right,
believe.
yep, that came on and
And then the
gonna,
second edition was, there
here
you
it is
go.
here, right?
That's
That's the first edition
Mhm.
of the wing to the left. This is the bus lane again.
Yeah.
For all you progressive kids, this is where the smoking circle was.
Yeah.
But I was never allowed anywhere near. Now,
Or you wouldn't tell if you were.
Yeah. now this was Millie Hardin's wing, you know, her like room was down here. But I want you to notice something. Look on top
Yeah.
of the two towers. Those are copper domes. I'd love to find out where they are.
Why they took them down.
Copper
Huh.
domes.
I've never seen
I
it.
mean, so here we are in a little town. This school was built as a vocational school
Yeah.
for
By the Zinc Company.
for the workers of the Zinc Company to learn English and to learn a trade that was useful to the Zinc Company. It didn't become a school for regular kids until later. Kids that went to high school from Franklin took the train to Newton,
Yeah.
or for a little while went to Hamburg High School
Right.
until they made this into a high school. As a matter of fact, Millie Hardin was in the last Franklin class to graduate from Hamburg High School.
Huh.
And this is Joni Simmons's class. These kids eventually became the class of 64.
Wow.
I can't pick anybody out, but I thought that it was just cute. It just shows, it looks like some sort of an Easter
Yeah.
pageant, right?
Girls are all dressed up.
Although, do they have mining helmets on over here? No, these are the pandas and like stuff like this. But like Joni's in here somewhere.
Dressed like rabbits and
This
carrots.
is a very rare and very significant pictures when they dedicated the grandstands for the baseball field. And look at all the different organizations represented here. You've got the Legion. You've got the baseball team. You've got some sort of group over there that's all dressed alike. You've got the band, the Franklin band. And look at the vehicles. And that was some grandstand, Franklin Athletic Association.
I never knew that was there.
And you got fire department over here too, you know, so this was a big, and real dugouts, not just benches, real dugouts back in the, so it was a real shame when they had to tear that down to add it on. And of course,
Irons.
Chief Irons. This is perhaps one of the rarest things you'll ever find, a color picture
Yeah,
of Chief Irons.
that's classic.
They were on their way. They're in a car. That's Father Steve back in the back. That's Mike Littell in the back behind Irons there. They're going to the field, Eddie, by the Midland Apartments, which is next to the professional building, next going down, where they dedicated a ball field named after him, a Little League field. The thing is, they only used it for a couple of years.
2 years. 3
Yeah,
years.
right. He died.
They moved so much dirt from around there. It used to be like a river coming down to past our store.
Oh,
you
is
know,
that right? Yeah.
A back alley.
So
out
you
to
come
the
down
driveway.
past the corner
the
deli
junction.
down the hill. This was just on the left. All right, that's a
Is that
color.
where they built the tennis courts eventually?
Yes. Well, they had them before this. They
Oh,
they were tennis courts before they dedicated the baseball
okay.
field.
And then they were
And,
condos,
yeah,
which I
yeah.
lived in.
Um,
Wow.
and Chief Irons attracted a lot of people too. Chief Irons liked the kids. This is
Huh.
not Don Drysdale, Don Newcomb. Visited up the road here, just past Michael's Jewelers. It used to be Highland Workshop that used to be Lorenzo's Auto Dealer. All right. And Lorenzo's held a fiesta every year, right, Eddie? They used to, that
They had,
yeah,
they had the party on Nestor Street,
right.
and everybody in the town used to go. to it.
Everybody used to go. Chief Irons is there. That's how much like drawing power to have the chief
Mhm.
there. And we know who the little boy is being lifted up, but I'm sorry that I don't remember right now. But Franklin used to get a lot of celebrities. Babe Ruth, Drysdale, Damone, Buddy Hackett.
And the Gabor sisters.
It was always a thrill to find your son
Wow.
in Zinc magazine. For all the workers there. This is our former mayor, Dick Dorina.
Get out, wow.
Um,
Sure, it looks like it,
yeah, yeah, this was a very Franklin-centric issue too. That's the one that had all those kids sitting on the
Uh-huh.
like bleachers and everything there too. This was 1950. But to find one of your boys in Zinc magazine was really something. And this is Tugger Helmsy.
Wow.
This is the marble tournament.
Yeah,
Aside from the soapbox derby, this was as competitive behind the scenes with proud fathers and everything else
That's a
than
great
anything
picture.
else. Look at the concentration. Look
I
at
know.
look at the tongue out. Yeah, yeah. So that's Tugger Helmsy. He was a pretty good friend of Marty Platzner's. I don't know whether like Marty's on the call here, but and we're getting down to it, so I think we're making good time here. And again,
Oh,
to make Zinc magazine, these are the Helmsy brothers going to school.
taking flowers to the teacher.
Oh yeah, taking flowers to the
That's
teacher
hilarious.
and like it says at the bottom, buses came from North Church Road, where I live, Beaver Lake, Ogdensburg, Sparta. Don't forget, Vernon was a sending district even when I was in high school.
Jefferson too. Well, not when we
My
were.
last 3 years, we had split sessions. We were done 12:15 every day because the school was like bursting. Now I think Vernon has like 7 second grades, something like that.
They're huge. Were you the only class or the last class that went all 4 years?
No, we only went 3 years.
3.
It was the one behind, the one ahead of you. And of
Um,
course, the most competitive thing within the Zinc Company wall was the soapbox derby. You created your own custom, not like today where they've got common ones that they share between the kids. You don't understand. There were 1,000 people, Eddie, right, that came out to watch this. And winning is Dr. Shoemaker's son, all right, who must have had friends in the blacksmith shop.
It was rigged.
Because coming in second place there, this was the finals, is my father-in-law, Carl Morris. And I can tell you for a fact that those front wheels were filled with split shot.
Wow.
And there's probably a weight in the front end of that thing
Oh,
too.
that's
And mind you that this was huge turnout. You see how it's paved to the right?
Mhm.
To the right, it's going up the hill towards the Franklin Theater.
That's
The
right.
town always kept that paved smooth. But when you got down the intersection, it got to the old concrete segmented roads. right? Which is what most of the roads here were, like High Street and
Mhm.
and everything like that.
You can see remnants of it, I think, in the, unless they tore it up.
Yeah, well,
in the
yeah.
Park, in the
Yeah.
park on
Yeah, when you,
Washington Ave.
but that's my father-in-law
That's
finishing
pretty cool.
second and it was a close race, but to have the dentist's son win when you got Zinc Company, you know,
Yeah,
my wife's grandfather worked in the Zinc Company. I mean, they should, yeah, that was quite an upset.
oh,
Now, I'm gonna finish
um,
with this picture. If not for anything else, this shows how organized and
Mhm.
tidy that Franklin was. This is how I remember it when I was a little kid, too. All the storefronts were occupied. It was just like Pleasantville, you
mhm.
know? After the Zinc Company closed, it put pressure on these things. You can see the sign for Herzenberg's drugs there, and you can see Goldstein's right up past it. You can see Gondor in the little, right before that little white house on the left. That was the shoemaker, and that little white house was Ma Wilson's luncheonette that had stools on the outside
Oh,
that had
wow.
windows that like opened up. Everything in this picture is there still. Every single
Building.
thing. There were gas stations, gas pumps, you can see it right here on this
Mhm.
side, that were built into the sidewalk.
Twins.
See, Quinn's, yeah, and there was another one up here too, and I forgot what that was, Eddie. But this, it had like Zidal or Midal.
The one going out of Franklin, it's before, no,
Hirschman's.
before,
Hirschman's,
no, the gas station there, what was this?
Oh,
I
name?
remember talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Ducky's.
2 boys, 3 boys.
Yeah. But look at this picture. Not only is it,
It's,
and everything is there. You see a nice little old lady here, right? And a little boy growing up here is fine.
that's all supposed to be in the picture. I don't know why they get the rest of it.
That little boy in the picture is this little boy. That's how much purging has been done to the past. So we're trying to drain Eddie of any
Yeah,
memories that he has. Eddie, what was your nickname back then?
They called me Kotchka
Kachka, why?
because I wobbled like a duck. So Kotchka is a duck.
Kachka's Hebrew for that. And when did they notice you wobbling like a duck? What didn't you want to drink?
I never drank milk.
Right.
She finally fed me coffee. That much coffee and the rest milk.
So what did you do when she tried to feed you milk once?
Well, somebody told me that running up Junction Street, my mother with a glass of milk, chasing a naked kid up to the
Naked.
stoplights. That was me.
Lordy Lou.
that's great.
And here he is
I-
today. Up at
Oh,
the firehouse.
my.
So that's our presentation today. There's more, all right, and we'll try to make arrangements to get some. I'd like to do one on the Zinc Company the next time. There's a lot of really
my
good
hat down.
stuff out there for the Zinc Company. So we'll try to put that together. The hard part is limiting what you're going to show because
Yeah,
just like,
you got so much.
In
There's so
that
much.
picture, I got that hat.
but we're very lucky,
I got my hat with me.
but we're very lucky that we got people like Ed that can give us a first person accounting,
In the sleeve, yeah.
you know, like names. There's a
Maybe it's on your,
there's a big
No.
Jewish heritage. And Eddie, your family was like the first Jewish family here?
first Jewish family here in 1902.
There it is.
1902.
Wow.
And it wasn't Franklin, it was Franklin Furnace.
Mhm.
Yeah, right, right.
At the pond, there was a furnace
Yeah,
for,
yeah. That's the interesting thing. I mean, we'll
For the
get, when we
iron
get to the Zinc Company. Franklin was the site of the country's most valuable iron mine, which was in the park next to the pond there, Mitchell Park that you got. It was the richest until the Masabi Range. Just across the street was the world's largest and
Oh,
richest
was it?
zinc mine. What a geological oddity. That
That's
that
fantastic,
had
Eddie. In the
that was
picture.
at the firehouse.
So anyway,
It's
are there any
wonderful.
questions from out in Zoom land or? I don't even know how to do that. I heard John before when he was up.
Oh.
Yeah,
Nice job, Phil.
yeah, thanks,
very
Mayor.
good.
All right, with that, we'll close it up. If there's any interest in getting copies of any of these pictures, we'll be glad to share them with you. Just let the library know. All right, then we'll go
Okay.
from there. Other than that, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
All
Phil.
right, you bet.
Thanks for your
Right.
time.
Goodbye, everyone.
This is so special.
And I
Yeah.
so appreciate when you
Here,
post,
but I've been here since
you do the
79. so
almost
I
daily
know quite a
posts.
bit.
Yeah,
But,
there's so much.
yeah, I
We
actually.
are
There
learning
is.
so much from family
Rabbit
pictures
corner.
by looking in the background.
Yeah,
Okay.
they have another.
That's a good idea, yeah.
For the high school.
Neat stuff. I got one of your dad, Board of Education, something like that.
Oh, okay.
I'll send them to you.
I have my